Hello, everyone. This is Ilyas, CEO and co-founder of Replenit. Today, like everybody else, we are going to talk about AI. And together with me, we have Margarita and Adiola and my fellow friend, Alp. But what we are going to talk about is like how AI impacts the beauty cosmetic retailers. And then we will narrow our focus in some part how Replenit solves replenishment challenge by utilizing AI. But before going to our presentation, I would like to let them introduce by themselves. And then the Adiola, maybe we can start with you. For our audience, it will be great if you can introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon and good morning, wherever you are in the world. It's really, really nice to meet you. I'm Adiola Sol, CEO and founder of Lead Lux Agency. So it's an email marketing agency. We do specify more predominantly in hospitality, but my background as an email marketer spans over 14 years. And I live and breathe e-commerce, retail marketing. So I'm really excited to kind of get into the conversation today. And it's super nice to meet all of you that are online, even though I can't see you.
Thank you very much for a beautiful introduction, Adiola. So let's continue with Margarita. It will be great if you can introduce us for yourself.
Hi, everybody. As Adiola said, we cannot see you, but we are so excited to be sharing some insights with you. I'm Margarita, and I am an e-commerce manager and have been in the retail industry for a very long time. E-commerce probably for the last 10 years or so. And I have worked at A.S. Watson, Lloyd's Online Doctor, and Debenhams from an online point of view, and then the likes of John Lewis and Gap when I was working in pure retail. So I have a lot of commercial experience that I'm hoping to be able to share some insights with you alongside AI replenishment.
We are so excited to hear about that, Margarita. Thank you very much for being with us. And lastly, my fellow friend and then the co-founder and then the chief customer officer of Replenit, stage is yours.
Hi, Ilyas. Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you very much, Adiola and Margarita, for being with us today, sharing your expertise and the insights. So as Ilyas already introduced, I'm one of the co-founders at Replenit, and I look after the customers. So my role for today is to actually show you how our customers are using AI in their replenishment flows and their replenishment programs. Look forward to the good chat with everyone.
Thank you very much, Art. So nice talking to you. So before going to deck, and then we have a really good information, really good insights that are the attendees over here that they talk about it. But before going that, I would like to mention about AI is transforming everything. So what we need to be focusing and talking about, what we can do and how we can enable and then solve our challenges by utilizing AI. And today, we are going to discuss about the transformation in B2 commerce, and then we will continue discussing about the importance of replenishment strategy and ideal replenishment flow. On top of that, we will follow with the best practices and real life examples from Replenit. I will talk about that. At the end, if we will be having time, I assume we will, and we will be having a final discussion. Please do not hesitate to drop your questions. And then at the end of it, it will be if there will be any time left. So we will be talking about what are the session's key takeaways. So if we continue with the next slide, Adiola, it will be so great if you can just start taking the lead from here and then share your insights and your experience with us.
Okay, so right. So essentially, how is AI transforming the beauty retail industry? And I think a lot of us, maybe not so much the men, but then who knows? Maybe the men are also experiencing a lot of the technology in terms of beauty, because let's face it, the world of beauty is definitely changing. And I hand on my heart believe that social media has played a really huge part in that. It's played a very pivotal role in terms of how brands show up and how brands decide to engage with their customers. And it's platforms like TikTok, like Snapchat, that have more or less paved the way for leading brands such as Neutrogena and L'Oreal to start playing around with different ways and different technologies, and how they can bring all of those different communities that are now showing an interest in beauty onto their websites and onto their platforms. So we're finding brands such as Neutrogena implementing smartphone AI skin diagnostics. And it's not just Neutrogena that are doing that. We also have brands such as Clarins and Unilever that are early adopters of a new technology called, well, I wouldn't say new, but a technology called Skin GPT. And it essentially what is the word? Analyzes.
Analyzes. Yes, that's correct.
Analyzes your facial photos, and it can predict the way your skin is going to age. And then it makes recommendations based on those predictions of the products that you should start using now. And that whole phenomena was birthed from everyone using this FaceApp AI tool that would age them. So there was this kind of interesting craze where people were posting online what they looked like 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And that actually birthed this whole Skin GPT, and brands using that technology to help predict how can you prevent aging by using the products that they have to ensure that as you grow and as you continue using their products, not only are you retained as a customer, but the longevity of how you preserve your skin and how you preserve, yourself is kind of maintained through their technology. And it's amazing that brands are moving forward in such a way where they're putting social movements into the product offerings that they have at the moment.
Thank you very much, Adiola. What I understand from you, like actually advancement in the technology. So like it's helping us to identify and understand our customers. So thanks to that, we will be able to help our customers to prevent aging and then what their skin needs, as far as I understand, right?
Yeah, no,
that's
exactly.
That's fantastic. Let's continue with the further insights about like how these technologies impacting in a positive direction. What are the, what is your experience in general, Adiola?
So for me, I think I see there are so many different ways in which technology is helping the customer, and it can be, it's down to the smallest thing. So it looks really small from the customer perspective, but behind the scenes, it's incredibly big. So we have those, we're not adverse anymore to seeing AI makeup try-ons. It's almost become the norm. But what is becoming a real phenomenon now is bridging the online with the offline, because a lot of these retailers do have brick and mortar stores, which also needs to survive. But how are they trying to mimic what you can experience online in store? We find Sephora, who also recently launched in the UK, but it's a massive, I'm sure we all know Sephora, but for those that don't, it's a really huge beauty retailer in the US, and they've recently expanded into the UK with some really great success. And they have also released a new piece of technology, which is a smart skin app that is present on their website, but you can also have a QR code that downloads all of that insights in store. So when you're walking around in store, an agent can serve you a lot more easily. It prevents that whole transfer of information that gets lost in the process sometimes when you have an unskilled customer agent in person that doesn't necessarily know what you're talking about. They can now download all of this information and serve you in store and in person. You can touch the product, you can get a feel for the product, you can have a lot more information about the product. And that is a great way of bridging the gap and increasing customer lifetime value. And this is what's so exciting about technology, but also about having an omni-channel experience where AI can help the customer not just grow and thrive and have that knowledge online, but they can take it in store knowing that it's going to be a seamless transaction, which I think has been a missing loop. Margarita, I don't know if you feel the same, but it's been a missing loop when technology is advancing and the web and e-commerce just seems to be leaps and bounds, and the store sometimes typically can feel left behind. I don't know if you've seen the same thing.
It's so true. And I think it's one of those things that when you find customers are engaging with these tools on their websites, it is, if you're if you're wanting to buy something new, and especially in my own experience as well, if you're wanting to buy a new product, test a new product, before you want to commit, you do want to do your first purchase in store, but you're not going to do your skin analyzer in store with a full face of makeup. You're going to do that in the privacy of your own home, do everything, go out to store, touch, feel, like you said, the product. It's really, really key to be able to have that online plus offline experience for customers in order to drive that lifetime value. It is 100% key. It also drives up basket value as well.
No, exactly.
Indeed. So like what we were discussing, like what I take out so far, like we also implement technologies to understand the customer, and we also implement technologies to discover, like to let the customers discover the product, like by utilizing real-time makeup and then the solutions and so on and so forth. So, but like by implementing those, like you are collecting a lot of data, customers continue buying. But like, what is the status of repurchase? Because for those, like when I think of those products are replenishing. And then so far, like I'm doing all of my cosmetic, and my wife does all cosmetic purchases online. You're not receiving any replenishment reminders. Why do you think, Adiola, like this is happening, and why the retailers are not focusing so far on this challenge?
You know what? See, look, Ilyas, you're making the retailers that are watching feel bad, because it's not that they don't want to do it. I think it's more of how to do it. The insights that go behind predicting when a customer has finished using their product, whether that's a foundation or whether that's a perfume, skincare, serum. It's incredibly hard to decipher when the right time is for a customer, especially when there are multiple SKUs and across different channels. So if someone has brought something in store, but then they're not tracking that sale, it's then really hard to bring that in-store experience online to be able to serve them with replenishments. So I think there's so many different barriers, but the ultimate barrier is resource. So if you don't have the right technology, and then you don't have the resource, it becomes almost like a burden to think about how are we going to create replenishment campaigns. And let's face it, with automations, they're fantastic, but in the day-to-day environment of a marketer, what they're ultimately chasing is the next sale. And there's always the next campaign, there's always the next launch. So to have the capacity to sit down and figure out how are we now going to build this model that allows us to predict when this product is due to run out for however many customers that we have online is a whole new strategy and a whole new team in itself. And I feel like that is probably the nature for most of those businesses out there. And so it's not that they don't want to. I think it's more of they don't know how, and the resources isn't there. And perhaps their native email service provider doesn't necessarily have the core components to help them do it easily. They will need to do several workarounds, several different data points in order to make that work, which they might not have the time to do. And that's just me predicting the ecosystem of most of those marketers out there, because I feel you on my side. It's not easy.
Adiola, like I would love you to talk till the end of session, but that won't be really nice to Margarita and then the Alp. And then on top of that, I'm not letting the people who are listening me like the deal bad or retailers, but there's a big chunk of money that they are leaving on the table, and then which could be grabbed quite easily. So I would like to ask a follow-up question on top of what Adiola said. Like Adiola mentioned, like the technology usage, implementation challenges, and so on and so forth. Margarita, based on your experience, you have a vast experience and then work in different brands. Like, what are the main, like the challenges, 2-3 of them, like that you can mention based on your experience? Why the brands are not like implementing AI or new technologies, or like the challenging solutions like replenishment solutions?
Across the board. So just thinking about it generally, it's all about building the trust in AI. AI, when it comes to business, is still relatively new. We're still kind of playing around with it, trying to understand what value it can add to our businesses. And it's really it's building that trust. Trust is one of the key things. And then on the back of that, as Adiola mentioned, it's resource. So we know that AI has a lot of capabilities in making life a lot easier for us and predicting a lot of things. But how much is that initial resource and investment in time in order to get tools up and running that are then built and supported by AI?
Yeah.
And that is one of the key things. And when we're talking about resource in a lot of businesses, it is already very, very tight. And everybody's got their key focuses. We do all want to go out and kind of start utilizing AI more effectively and better, getting tools onto our sites and into our stores that allow customers to engage more with us and then drive up average basket value and all of those sort of things. But I would say it's the trust in the outcomes, because we're talking about, skin analyzers, makeup try-ons. It's what is it recommending to the customer. If you recommend the wrong thing to the customer, you've then lost their trust and you've then lost that customer. And that is probably where the biggest fear is that trust. So,
I totally understand you. Thank you very much. Fantastic answer, Margarita. So let's continue with your part, Margarita, if you don't mind me asking. So since the mic is with you, so you can take it from here.
Yeah, so I think, as Adiola mentioned, and as everybody's mentioned, replenishment we would all love to go after it. We really would. It really does help with your market share. You've managed to capture that customer the first time, and then being able to retain them actually is really, that's the ideal. That's where we want to be. Every retailer wants to be there. And then so it's claiming that market share and keeping hold of it, and then kind of growing on it as people then kind of talk to their friends and recommend your brand to them. It's all about that retention. So increase in lifetime value. I think every retailer has one of their key KPIs as being lifetime value. If you can get customer in and secure them shopping with you, you're in a win-win situation. And you know that they will start trusting the brand. They will then come back to you, and you can then take them on their journey through life. So whether that's through skin, from being young and the right products to prepare your skin and get yourself ready, all the way through to once it starts maturing and slowing that maturing down, it's really, really key. And then it's all about, if you're able to kind of retain them, it's what else can you sell them? We all know that, and I know as I've gotten older, I'm piling a lot more on my face than I was previously. So it's
that is quite visible. I can say that. You guys look great.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you were going ES, but that was quite visible.
So, but we do, and we start really thinking more about what we put on our skin, and really consider it. And once we find something we generally do like it, then we want to add to it. Yeah. So there's so much by getting that customer in the door and then retaining them that you can do in order to make sure that you keep hold of them through those replenishment strategies. But that is the challenge. It's the replenishment strategies. And I think we've already spoken, both of us, about the resource that's required to go into that. So
thank you very much. The great explanation. But I would like to ask a small follow-up question. So when the retailers try to acquire those customers, you mentioned at the beginning of the slide, they are spending tons of money to acquire the customers. Why, when I talk with the retailers or the people in the market, they are spending huge amount of money, they are spending huge amount of budgets, but why they are not focusing on retention as much as they focus on the customer acquisition cost?
They are focusing on retention, but probably not through replenishment strategies, because replenishment strategies require so much work. You really need to understand the customer, and at the moment, without a lot of tools in the market that are able to make it easier. And I think Alp, you're going to share some really great insights later on how Replenit can make it so much easier. At the moment, it's not easy. We've got as retailers, we make generalizations. We will have a look at our full database. We'll have a look at what our customers bought, and those then returning customers, we go, right, okay, they have returned anything between 2 and 8 weeks. So we're going to go, right, we're going to send our replenishment email around 5 weeks, which will be really too late for those customers needing to replenish in 2 weeks, too early for those 8 weeks. You're probably only capturing a very small target market there of who you really want to get hold of, because we have to make so many generalizations. And the other thing to think about is that, and especially when it comes to beauty and skincare, is that customers are buying things that are all different volumes. So you might have, you traded into a product that's on offer, that's a big value product, and then that will maybe last you 2 months, but then you'll look smaller eye cream that's much smaller in volume, but you're probably using a similar amount or at the same regularity. You might need to be replenishing that in a month. Trying to understand all of those steps, all that basket within your data. We all have that data, but it's understanding it, building rules around it. That's where we're all struggling. And then you're going to throw in the final piece, and I think I'm probably talking about stuff on the next slide as well, is that
I was like, I just realized. So let's go to the next slide and then the complete Margarita. That's, by the way, great explanation. We are also hiring. So if you are still, if you will consider. So we should talk about it later, maybe.
Yes. So it is. There's so many things to think about when you come to replenishing a customer. I've kind of covered off, you've got multiple products in a basket. You've got different usage rates. You've got just even things about not necessarily the time of the month, but it's understanding where people's finances possibly are as well. There's lots of little bits and pieces. What your promotional calendar also looks like versus your replenishment strategy.
Not only internal, like the facts, also we need to consider external facts, like the seasonality, like the day of the month, day of the week. So these are really important. Thank you very much. Great. So far I'm enjoying very much. I hope our audience as well.
Yeah. And then the final piece, and this is never considered, and actually until we started talking before, out of stocks. My goodness, I think the amount of replenishment emails that I've been sent out when you literally get there and you're like, there we go. Oh yes, reminder, I need that. Oh, it's out of stock. Oh, right, great. So all of this information is really, really hard to pull together. It's, as I said, we have the data. We don't have the time to be able to build out the correct strategies.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Great explanation. But I would like to ask a follow-up question at this point. What metrics is the most important while you are focusing on replenishment? What the retailer should focus on in the future?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a number of metrics that they should focus on. Obviously, the key ones are conversion from the replenishment emails. I think that is really key, and that will give you a good indication of whether the time of your emails is effective or not. Excuse me. And then it's all thinking about the added revenue what that revenue is converted into. They're probably the two real key things. But knowing the beauty market and how competitive it is too, really understanding what your open rate and engagement of your replenishment emails are and how you then tie in your promotional strategy, whether that be your overarching promotional strategy across your stores and your online business, or whether that's a promotional strategy within your replenishment emails. You've really got to consider this, because at the end point, price is probably the most important thing to a customer. And we know that shopping has become so much easier for customers to be able to compare prices, that if your emails are opened and engaged with through your replenishment programs and customers aren't converting, it could be down to your price and promotional strategy versus the competition. So your replenishment program might be working really, really effectively. However, if you're not converting, then you might be having to think about what your pricing and promotion strategy is and what you're then going to do to support the conversion rate improvement from your replenishment strategy.
Fantastic answer. Thank you very much, Margarita. I do appreciate it. I would like to follow up one question, like with Adeola. Like, Adeola, you are working with different retailers, especially on the email marketing, the challenges, and you are helping them. So, like in your mind and based on your experience, what an ideal replenishment journey looks like?
Oh, brilliant question. The ideal journey essentially takes into consideration most of the things that Margarita has said. So it's a follow-up that makes sense. And it goes beyond replenishment, even having reviews. If you know that a customer has used or bought this product a few times, you don't necessarily need to send a review. But if it's their first time using the product, yes, send a review, but take into consideration returns or cancellations of orders. So a great program or a great automation really does go deeper on the customer level. It doesn't sit at automation level. We're looking a lot more deeper into how a customer has interacted, who they are in the journey. So are they a first-time user? Are they a VIP customer? Are they actually a lapsed or returning customer? And how are we going to engage with them until the point of replenishment? So it all comes into consideration, because those touch points before replenishment also will determine how that customer interacts with your campaign. So, taking away the price sensitivities, the timing, whether or not it is down on user level in terms of replenishing at the right moment. If those comms up until that point are not aligned with the replenishment strategy within itself, then that can also bring that whole automation down. So the perfect journey isn't just replenishment. It is everything that happens before replenishment as well as after.
That is great. Especially, I like the idea of like sending surveys or NPSs. So like I'm taking into this in my mind as a like the product feature. That is because like after the first experience, I think if in order to sustain the retention, you need to understand the customer's first experience. If there is any like the challenges he or she is experienced with the product. So like that's why we can focus on the product retention too, because like yes, we have user retention, but also like how happy the customers with the product. So we need to understand that one as far as I understand, right?
Yes, no, exactly. But you see, the thing is, retention isn't just about retaining the customer on your product. Retention is about retaining the customer with you. So if your whole strategy is just focused purely on replenishment, but it's not considered within the entire ecosystem of what that customer receives, then ultimately that program may fall, because the customer doesn't see replenishment, it doesn't see reminders, it doesn't see out of stock, it just sees you. And it doesn't know that one department is controlling this and another department is controlling that. They literally just see you. So everything needs to work. As this slide is showing 8 steps in a circle, that circle is almost like an infinity. It is an ecosystem, and everything has to coexist in line with your replenishment program. So when you're thinking about retention, it's not about thinking about retaining the person on a product, because, okay, this water, I drink Buxton water, and it's not a replenishable product. But what I'm trying to say is, I will choose to go to a specific place to buy this water over somewhere else simply because of the environment, and I know that I can get other bits and pieces in that store. Price can be a thing that sways a customer away, but it doesn't have to be if the entire experience with you is a star. Right. So that's why I say that replenishment is very much necessary, but it must also sit in the ecosystem of the entire customer experience for it to really hold its weight and value and retain. So that way, other external factors won't necessarily be something that works against you, but actually works with you, because you've seen the whole journey, not just a moment of it. Does that make sense?
Fantastic. Really, pretty much. Thank you very much for a detailed and then the extensive answer. I do appreciate it. And then You were silent for a while. I hope you were enjoying the conversation.
I was getting direct feedback from the industry as well. So
Okay,
I was
that is
super happy
fantastic.
with the content and the comments and the insights.
Let's go ahead out with you. So like, let's see what are the best practices and real life examples like from our platform.
So I don't really want to go into the details of the replenishment, how it should be, what it should be, because both Adela and the Margarita have explained perfectly what are the needs. What I would like to actually focus on here is what is expected from AI in BT industry when it comes to replenishment. So AI was actually smart. AI is smart. AI is getting smarter and smarter. But what I think industry is expecting is not to find the smartest solution, but on top of that, who does the heavy lifting, heavy work that will actually find the individual customer, they're actually the relation with your brand, not with the product, but with the brand, and combine those doing the heavy work. Like we have been hearing AI for a while, but there is actually a new trend that is being adopted in the market is the AI agents. So I think the best practice for a replenishment solution, it should act like an AI agent rather than just a smarter solution that has to be generalized or that has to be actually user prompted or user action is required, like the skincare products, every skincare finders, other steps, they expect user to come, they expect user to actually engage with those. But when it comes to replenishment, what I see is the best practice for a vendor like Replenit or any other is to make sure that they're not just smart, they're also actually doing the heavy lifting to make sure everyone is actually receiving those in their timely manner with all the details that was discussed, with the out of stocks, with actually the groupings and individual consumption paces. So that's, I believe, is what is the case. And cost of doing nothing and cost of not actually doing that or generalizing it, it's actually quite harsh, and it's becoming harsher and harsher because right now we see 25% increase in the customer lifetime value. One of the actually the metrics in the retention, the replenishment that the brands are doing if they do use AI in a smarter way in a year. There is also actually one other thing. If you actually lose 1% of your customer base, if they are actually churning in a month, you lose 25% of the profit with all the steps. So cost of doing nothing is the fact, but also the vendors, the solutions should do both the heavy lifting and the being smarter at the very start. And with the best examples and everything, I think we can go to the next slide. I can share what are actually the cases compared to the static generalized reminders versus a solution like Replenit, what we do. From here, I would like to give you a real example from Pharmex, one of our actually earliest clients that we started to work with. They had a static generalized replenishment reminders that they were sending in every two months after the transaction, and there were no rules, there were no actually checkpoints, there is no AI. It's just sending them the reminders in 2 months later and hoping them to come back and the purchase again and keep being loyal to the brand itself. But what we did, we actually implemented Replenit as a agentic AI, doing all the heavy work and being a smarter. What we have seen is conversion rates 12 times higher compared to the previous setup what they had they had in store. So I think this real example is showing what is the potential that the brands are leaving on the table, and as well as the power of AI, especially agentic AIs, finding this individual relations with the brand and the consumer on an individual level. That's, I believe, would be the best practice I can say. But if you have any further questions, I'm super happy to speak about the successes, like how our clients are utilizing Replenit. Ilyas.
So like I have, like what we are doing over here to, of course, help our retailers. But like what are the other insights? Like, what are the other parameters or other things that we can learn by implementing replenishment reminders? Maybe you can share a couple of insights that we also discuss with our customers, because like when the timely reminders are being sent, I remember that like we were discussing this out of stock cases, which the ladies also mentioned as well. So like that might be quite interesting for our audience.
Exactly in here. So everything that from the out of stock checks, from actually the grouping, early replenishment or late replenishment, adjusting it, seasonality, that's one thing that you mentioned, Ilyas. I think this is important because if you purchase a sun cream in the August, you don't want to receive a reminder in October when there is no sun, especially in Europe. So I think these are really small things that we don't notice, but the AI solutions should be adapting. But I would like to add one other thing, one other actually real example with such solutions, what other advantages that it brings to the retails. One example, so right now with Replenit, we are actually providing a product retention cohorts and the reports to our clients. And we actually provide what are the most retained products, what are the actually most replenishable products in their time frame to our customers. And one of our customers, what they did, they actually changed their acquisition strategy, their ad strategy, to not to promote the top seller, to not to promote the product that has actually the most visit. But what they did instead, they actually switched their acquisition strategy from the most popular product to the most retention oriented product. By that, what they actually achieved and what we are seeing, and I'm super proud of it, is they spend less money on acquisition. And if a customer is acquired and they purchase, there's high chance that they will keep purchasing the same product. They can cross-sell, and they can actually create brand loyalty around that because the product itself is being advertised is most likely to be repurchased. So that's another example of having AI in your replenishment strategy on top of the basics that you must be doing from the beginning. These are the collateral advantages that I can share.
Fantastic. So I would like to continue with Margarita with a question. So like the technology is developing, we are talking about AI, and then there are further solutions will be appearing like around this topic or not, maybe subscription as well, because subscription is also some important topic that we can see. So how do you see like this like customer lifetime value focus, like on focusing on recurring purchase, how it is going to impact, and then what the retailers should expect from the future when we think of an AI?
I think the biggest impact is, and I think thinking about replenishment versus subscription, because in the beauty market, we have seen quite a few retailers move to the subscription model. And again, it's one of those things where a lot of assumptions have been made with that, how often you need to replenish your product, and whether there is AI built into that. Obviously, I've only seen it from a customer point of view, so don't understand the back end and what sort of data has been fed into it. But with a replenishment program, you are really considering and especially when there's AI incorporated into this, you're more likely to align to when the customer actually needs this. And then you can also build a story around this through your replenishment communications. When you think about subscription models, you might find that you get a better deal by signing up to a subscription model. But as we've talked earlier, is that it will be based on a generic model of how often we need to replenish this. You're also then committed to this model and purchasing this product every so often. So you are, every first of every month, you are going to have a new product appear on your doorstep, whether you need it or not. And that is the tie-in. And customers do feel reluctant to tie themselves into a product where they don't 100% know how often they're going to be needing to replenish this. And that's one of the key things that I think going down the replenishment route and the replenishment model versus subscription model is definitely a better solution. It just gives you an extra touch point to communicate to the customer. And Adeola's already mentioned that whole customer touch points, all those touch points are really, really key in order to drive that progression. But I think it's a good replenishment models are really good to be able to communicate to the customer, and also just even check in and say, yes, you're due for this replenishment. Is it still working for you? If it's not working for you, actually, do you want to try this instead? So giving the customer alternative ideas if they're not 100% sure, or if we know that they've gone over another birthday and they've kind of hit another milestone in their routines, it's like, actually, we know you need this product now. Maybe you need to consider redoing your skin analyzer test to make sure that this is still the right product for you. So replenishment models are so much better at being able to communicate with the customer than a subscription model, where you are literally just tied in each period of time, where you know, oh, that money's just come out of my account, right? Oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. It's going to appear on my doorstep. It gives the control back to the customer, and it gives more to communicate with them as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Margarita. I love the answer, especially like by relating with this, especially Adeola said, touch points. Like we also experience that even from the same vertical or same like the category products from different shops, and converting differently, even with the replenishment too, because the touch point experience like is totally different when we look at the two brands.
Yeah.
That's why I would like to ask a question, Adeola. You are working with like a lot of brands, and then when you receive, you are consulting them, and then you are checking what is the thing that they actually do, like as a practice and up and running. What are the common practices that you see in your customers that they are doing as a use case, like the gross abandonment, cart abandonment, or any other use cases that you experience when you check the customers, when you start consulting first time with the customer?
Oh, well, do you know what? You'd be surprised that a lot of brands or retailers out there are not doing a majority of the basics. So even abandoned basket, I recently had a client that, has an e-commerce store, but only implemented abandoned basket 2 years ago, and they've been operating for 10 years. So it's and it comes down to technology, it comes down to resource, but it also boils down to a knowledge gap. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what is going to help you drive more revenue, because there is so much out there. There are so many different tools out there. There are so many different integrations that all promise the same thing, and it becomes incredibly overwhelming. So I do have a lot of clients that want to add additional revenue, because you have to think of it from the psychology of the marketer. It's about how can we have additional revenue, but the real way to think about it is how can we make the customer experience better? And then once you understand how you want to make the customer experience better, you then find the technology that helps you do that. And that's where I think Replenit is a really wonderful solution, because it allows you to do just that. Where Margarita was talking about understanding, you have so many different data points on your customers already, and being able to embed those different data points into a tool that not only predicts the exact time and the right time for a product, but also allows you to utilize the different information that you have on your customers. So like Margarita was saying, if it is someone's birthday, or if they haven't actually been as active with you for a while, you can use your campaigns to address those things as well. So you become less transactional and a lot more helpful. And that is what really bridges the gap between churn and retention. So, I would love to start seeing brands do so much more. I mean, the one replenishment email that I received that blew my mind, and it was so basic. It was from
maybe it was from us. I don't know.
No, you know what? It wasn't, because when I posted about it on LinkedIn, because I was very impressed with how they did it. It was boots, and I bought some lady bits, and I bought it in bulk. And I wasn't expecting a replenishment email, and this replenishment email came 6 months later, and it was
that's nice.
and it was in time with the quantity of what I had put in my basket, right? And so there were some things that were wrong with the email and the template, but the thought behind it was correct. And so when I broke it down on LinkedIn, I actually had the director of marketing from Boots kind of message me and say that this has been a love-hate campaign, because the amount of sweat that they had to put into making this series work, and they can only do it for a few SKUs. It's nice for them to see the recognition. And so that's why I feel like something like this, Replenit, and I saw a question from someone in terms of
I was about to connect it. I'm sorry for interruption, Adiola, but like Ayşegül is asking, like, you are welcome, Ayşegül. I hope you enjoyed. And she's asking that once a brand uses Replenit, should they create? Thank you very much, Jenna, putting the session. Maybe you can take a look at it because it resonates with your answers, and then it's too much admin work when it should be done. But like with Replenit, you don't need to deal with it, because like our system, once integrated, takes care of the all, and then you would just take a look at the performance and then fix it if there is anything to optimize further. But Adiola, if you would like to add further, please go ahead.
No,
because I was enjoying that you were answering my question.
Exactly, and I actually think she would benefit from just knowing how easy it is, because it's more of just a product feed, right? A product feed, sorry, SKUs, product feeds, and the tool essentially will look at the transactional data, and it goes beyond that. It doesn't just look at your transactional data. It looks at I've got so many things on this table, but it looks at the milliliters. It takes all of that into account so that it produces a very specific calculation for each customer. So, and this is what I was saying with Boots, they found it really hard to do that on a wider scale. If you think about Boots and the amount of SKUs that they have, why do I have so many things on my table? Even if you look at, if you have Nivea, and they probably have about 10 different versions of this cream, right? 10 different scents, 10 different, sizes, exactly. Travel size, jumbo size, normal size, family size. It becomes incredibly daunting, not even hard, but just daunting as to where do you start. And so I think she would definitely benefit in terms of understanding how easy it is to extrapolate all of that information, plug it into the tool, and the tool essentially does all the thinking for you and produces the most beautiful campaign that looks incredibly effortless, but at the same time generates incremental revenue for the business and makes you look like an absolute superstar to the business.
Thank you very much. Like, I was planning to hand over this question to Alp, but
I have nothing to add. To be frank, like the Adiola has.
Thank you very much. It's a great answer. Great answer, ladies. And then if you want to add something.
Maybe I can add one thing to the Ayşegül's question. So with Replenit, it's actually auto-scalable with all the SKUs, all the details. I will not go into details in here, but yes, inside there is an agentic AI. It does all the work, heavy lifting, and finds the individual and product relations with your brand. So
fantastic.
Fantastic,
Archie. Thank you very much. So nice of you guys. I think the Selma has a comment. Thank you very much, Selma, for being with us. Also, she added that the price is important, so client loyalty should be rewarded in the price of the repeated product. But she also thinks that we have to keep it interesting, show the client that we are interactive with the program, so we can suggest new additional products. That's absolutely correct, and then resonates what Adiola and then Margarita said earlier.
Well, I'm going to be controversial if we have time. It does.
We have. Please go ahead.
It does and it doesn't. So what you want to do, and this is why I think it's really important when you're creating replenishment campaigns, Margarita spoke about it, it's about having a strategy, a replenishment strategy, because you don't want to condition your customers to become discount shoppers, because that could potentially hurt your margins down the line. We've seen lots of retailers kind of suffer from being heavily discounted and now having to try and pivot and find a way to bring their customers back into purchasing full price. So I think loyalty should be rewarded not from the repeated product, but perhaps the number of repeated times that a customer has bought with you. Maybe their fifth purchase is discounted, so that there's a strategy and a mindset that they're still buying something very premium from you, but the loyalty is rewarded in other ways. So I do agree, because it's always nice to have a discount, but it should be done strategically, as Margarita said, so that you, one, protect the brand reputation, but then you're also not hurting your margins too much when it comes to these kind of things.
Extremely important, especially when it comes to the point of margin. Maybe Margarita, you want to add something on top of what Adela said?
I was just going to say, I think we all know that the majority of beauty retailers do have a loyalty program. So it isn't necessarily all around offering a discount on the product. We know that that is important for some customers, but if you get a customer joining your loyalty program and you have really engaging benefits, customers will often prefer to shop with you because of those engaging benefits, rather than have a slightly cheaper price through another retailer. And as Adiola said, you know, you're rewarding the replenishment program through a discount at a later date on a future purchase. When you have those, when you've got a loyalty program, you generally always build up points, so you know that actually down the line you are going to be able to save a little bit more on your next purchase because you've saved those points. So you're not even having to offer the customer that discount. They already have that in their mind that they're going to be building to get there in the end. So I think this is where replenishment programs and loyalty programs really can work very well hand in hand.
Fantastic, Margarita. Thank you very much. I think, there's one more question. So Adiola, Margarita, maybe you can just quickly, we have 5 minutes left. I would like to wrap it up. And what are the advices would you give retailers to start adopting AI for replenishment reminders?
Should I? Okay.
Please go ahead.
Very quick. What I would say is, first, just have a general look at your data. Do you find that the repurchase rate of your products, are they quite high? Are they above average? Are you able to kind of decipher what the average repurchase rate is? And is there a healthy number there? And even if there isn't, do you find, is your data telling you a story about the way in which your customers buy? If there is, it might be worth trialing AI around those SKUs and seeing whether it can enhance, so optimize what you're already doing, or boost. So if you're not seeing the retention that you're expecting to see, perhaps you can use AI on those particular SKUs to help predict and create a hypothesis as whether or not it's viable. So that way you're not doing a full commitment, you're not overhauling everything that you're doing, but you're using certain SKUs as a case study to decipher whether or not it is the right thing for you and whether or not it's the right fit for the business that you're working for.
Fantastic. Margarita, anything to add?
Yeah, I think just from my point of view, I think we've just all discussed and shared at how resource heavy manual replenishment programs are and how wrong we can get them. Yeah, and I think it's really understanding that. I think if you have a loyalty program, if you can understand that customer profile and that customer base and how often they're replenishing, and if they're not replenishing as often as you think they should be, then I think that's a really, really strong opportunity for AI to get it right for you, just as Adiola just said. But I think, so it's not even necessarily looking at specific SKUs. You could look at a specific customer base within your loyalty program as well. But for me, it's about the ease. It's about the time that you don't need to invest in doing all of that data analysis in order to build out a replenishment program that is not going to fit each customer individually. And that is
fantastic. Thank you very much. One last question, last minute. A good friend of mine, Vincent, is asking, maybe Jenner, you can put the question. He's saying that beyond the purchasing pattern, do you consider customers' feedback or reviews as it may influence their intent to repurchase a given product?
Mm-hmm. Maybe I can take this one as a direct
Maybe you
technical
can
question of the
take
product.
it. Yeah.
Indeed, the short answer is yes, but not only the reviews or the feedbacks, but they're actually user attributes. They are other events that they do. Their whole journey is actually impacting their repurchase and the repurchase rate. So all the journey. So not just the reviews or the feedbacks, but you also need to consider every touch point. If they returned a product previously, how is their actually status with the call center, support center, how discount heavy they are, and like what are the best time for them to actually purchase? Are they purchasing on the weekends mostly, or purchasing on the weekdays when it's the time? So indeed, that's really good one to consider, but not the only one that you should be focusing on. So that's
Exactly.
the answer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the answer. Firstly, like it was a great session. I did enjoy, and then the Margarita Adeola, really, really thank you very much. We are not having too much time, but like really, it was an extensive. We understood that like how AI could help, how Replenit could help in terms of setting up the replenishment for retailers. It was great answers, ladies. Archim, thank you very much for your contribution. Also, I would like to thank our lovely audience, Ayşegül, Vincent, Selma, and then the rest of the people, and wishing you all great day ahead, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.